Thank you, and welcome to the first official, I guess, episode of this little experiment. And I would like to say thank you for taking time
Yeah.
out of your day, because don't you have like a state officer like retreat or meet in Washington?
Yeah, we leave Monday for State FFA Officer Summit. So it's kind of like the Washington Leadership Conference that members go to, and then they combine that with delegate business and legislative visits for um with Congress and then for National FFA convention. So it's a packed week.
All right. Well, thank you. And
Yeah.
I guess the first thing I'm actually excited, but this is a very weird thing to say,
hmm
I guess, is that I'm excited that you're not in official dress.
Yeah.
because, because I think you know as well as I do, and as well as like I guess every other member knows the like pain it is
hmm
to keep it on, especially when it
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
because it gets so hot, and also I
hmm
guess just as a thing of like I would rather talk to you as a person rather than
Yeah.
as just the person wearing the blue jacket, because I know how
hmm
scary it can be to like look at the like association on the back, or
Yeah.
the even scarier part is when there is no text, because that's a
Oh, yeah, really. Yeah, for sure.
so I guess the first thing is how did you ever think you were going to get to be a state officer, and how did you get started? Because
hmm
you mentioned how you kind of put into it not against your will, but you didn't expect to be here, but what I guess made you run for regional or run for state and led you to be a state officer?
Yeah, um so my dad is the Kentucky FFA executive secretary. So I've always been around the state FFA officers and I've always had that connection. So I've always had 11 or 12 big siblings to look up to. So I wanted to be like them, but I didn't know why I wanted to be like them. I just knew they were really good role models, but they had pretty cool jackets and that meant
Yeah.
I kind of got like sort of got a vacation with them every summer, but it wasn't really a vacation. It was actually my dad's work. So that was always really neat, and that was something I found really cool. But the older I got, the more I realized, okay, maybe this is pretty cool. I don't live on a farm, but I do garden with my dad. I do work in my papa's greenhouse with him. I am in the agriculture industry. I think FFA is for me. Originally I was like, I'm gonna join because of my dad, but then I was really like, I'm gonna join for me and my dad.
Right.
And so through that, I became more and more comfortable within getting ready to be an FFA. I kind of knew my ag teachers because one of them was a state officer actually the year I was born. Mr. Whitaker was. But as I walked into my freshman ag class, I was like, this is where I belong. I hadn't really had a place of belonging in middle school. I hadn't had a bad experience, but I didn't have a place where I really fit. And so FFA was that for me, and that was something that was really wonderful. And I needed to be pushed out of my comfort zone a lot to become a leader that I wanted to be, and that's something FFA did for me, which was amazing. And so through that, it's like my freshman year, which was right after COVID. So COVID hit when I was in seventh grade. Our first, the hybrid year was eighth grade, and then our first regular year, if you could call it that, was freshman year for me, but it wasn't really regular because we were in and out of school a lot still then. And so there were several spots still open on our executive team, and they had a spot for the agricultural literacy committee chair. And I said, you know what? I'm going to run for that. And I was able to get that position, and through that, we actually started one of our first. I was able to start and plan one of my first activities, and I planned the plant science education day for kindergartners and first graders in our school district. And that was something that was amazing to me. I got to teach them about what I love, and they got to learn about agriculture at a really young age at a time. It fit in their classroom curriculum. It actually allowed their teachers to go deeper into the curriculum. It just fit. Um, and so through that, I ran for office. I was an assistant officer sophomore year. I was chapter secretary junior year, and then senior year, I served as chapter and regional president. So, with regional office, we didn't do a ton. There was still a lot of interruptions within that year that we weren't able to do what we wanted to do. our chapter, our regional leadership conference got canceled because of something we couldn't control. Schedule didn't allow it, and so a lot of things happened there that we weren't able to do what we wanted, but we were able to kind of see what leadership was like when it wasn't just our chapter, when it wasn't 50 people, when it was more like 500 people. And that was really neat. That was a really good experience. And then that pushed me to realize, maybe I want to run for state office. And I had already known at that point. I had the realization of what a state FFA officer did when I was a freshman. Vice President at the time, Kelly Baird, came to my freshman ag class, and she taught a workshop on finding your leadership style. I found mine there, and I realized, okay, that's what state officers do. They're not just good influences on people, but they help people but become the best versions of themselves. And that was something that I was like, wow, I want to do that for people because, not every leader is the most outspoken person in a room. And that was something that really resonated with me because I'm not the most outspoken person in a room. I'm one of the most quiet people on our state officer team this year. So you're not always going to get input from me. So that's something that, was kind of neat. And then through that, that just came to running and, just having to have the discipline that FFA had taught for so many years of my life to, run for state office because it's a long process. It's a hard process, but it's so rewarding in the end. Whether you get state office or whether you don't, just realizing, hey, I've done something really big, really awesome, and I've represented myself, my family, my chapter, and members through this. So, that was kind of how I got started, even though I don't live directly on a farm and I don't, but I'm still involved in agriculture every day. I'm still involved in FFA every day. And that's something that's really stuck with me about this organization and about what we do every day that, I hope to continue, even if I'm not an ag teacher, even if I'm not directly involved with FFA in the future.
Yeah, and I always I'm a bit biased more towards people who aren't from a traditional agriculture background because that's where
Yeah, for sure.
because that's where I'm from. I'm from
Yeah.
Lexington, obviously, and
Yeah.
we're I think it's just as important, if not a bit more important, at least on like getting people involved because I
Hmm.
think like one of the most important ways to like I guess put agriculture out there for
Yeah.
more and more people is to
Hmm.
be in places where it's not really thought
Yeah.
about. Like I
Absolutely.
and I think that's really cool when people who are from
Hmm.
non-traditional agriculture backgrounds
Yeah.
are involved in ag and are involved in
Mm.
FFA because
Yeah.
then they can get people who are also like them to get more involved, and that's
Hmm.
just a self-repeating process that will hopefully not go wrong in any way.
Yeah.
And I still, even if you don't necessarily like get a state office, but you still run, like
Hmm.
that's still something to be congratulated for because it's
Yeah.
hard.
It is hard. Yeah, it's absolutely. It's one of the most stressful things you'll do because you're still an FFA member. You can still compete in contests, but then you're also, you have the stress of the process that happens before convention even does. And then you additionally have, working as an intern helping backstage, which that just shows you an appreciation for Kentucky FFA for interns, for everything that goes on backstage to make front stage look good. And it's just, that was one of the most stressful things I've ever done in my life, but that was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done to be able to see the whole process in full, and just to get to experience that in a way that, showed me the value of, and me as a person who values, service sometimes more than speaking, being the head of something, how that actually happens and what that actually looks like. And I think FFA has been very good for me, and I'm sure it's been very good for you, and other members of your chapter in your region, and just, seeing the value of service within leadership and how that actually builds leaders.
Yeah, and I think all of this would not be possible if we didn't have those people behind the scene.
Oh,
Like,
always.
yeah, like, although
Hmm.
it's just a little bit of the opening ceremonies, the advisors are super, super important. All the, like, people who work behind the stage,
Hmm.
the people who
Yeah.
help organize the committee chairs, which
Hmm.
I need to ask you more about that because that's a new
Yeah.
committee I've never heard of, and that's actually
Yeah.
sounds actually really interesting. But
Yeah.
those people like our
Hmm.
advisors that like help us and like volunteer us to do something.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, there's
Hmm.
this speech competition. You're doing it. Like that's kind of what
Hmm.
happened to
Yeah.
me, at least for junior parley and speeching contests. Is that my advisor just came up to me and he was like, "You're
Hmm.
doing this," and I was like,
Yeah.
do I get a choice?" He was like, "Not really."
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm glad that he did that because if it didn't,
Hmm.
I probably would be maybe not regretting it now, but like after I might be really regretting it because the amount of like fun
Hmm.
and experience and just meeting new people I've gotten to do. Like I've begun
Yeah.
because at least in our chapter, mainly the people who do those competitions, who do like
Hmm.
show cattle, show
Yeah.
animals, or do contests, are usually the people that are usually the ones that are the committee
Yeah.
chairs, the officers,
Hmm.
and being able to like grow with them as these are the people
Hmm.
that are
Yeah.
hopefully gonna like be with me on the executive team for the rest of my at
Hmm.
least chapter level career in FFA, and that's I think is
Yeah.
really cool. And back to that chapter thing, not chapter community share.
Hmm.
I have never heard of increasing ag literacy as a committee. Please tell more about that because that sounds
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. So, have you heard of the committee's been growing leaders, building communities, and strengthening agriculture?
Yeah, we have. I think so. For us, we have like six
Okay.
committee chairs because we're just such a
Yeah.
big chapter with like
Yeah, for sure.
400 people. So
Yeah.
we need a lot more. So it's like
Yeah.
two for like everything. So like,
Yeah. So with National FFA, they have in each of those three categories, they have some different subcommittees that go under those. So those are like the umbrella committees, and then there's ones that go under that. So under strengthening agriculture, that was one. Agriculture literacy and agriculture advocacy were two of those. And so I was in the agriculture literacy committee. I was that committee chair, but I was technically serving as chair of both committees, so both roles. So my chapter, the only difference is my chapter just breaks those up. So we have, I'm not sure how many
uh,
exactly, but I think there's 12, potentially 14 or 15 of those subcommittees. So we actually split those up and have a committee chair for each one, so that we don't have, two people doing all the work and one person, only having one activity. Maybe we can have, each person spearhead an activity and then other people come in and help under that. So through that, we're kind of practicing, delegating and being a delegate. So,
yeah,
taking the work, but also learning how to give that off. Kind of like one of those workshops at camp talked about the time management, being
yeah.
able to delegate. So, kind of like that, but so in agriculture literacy, at FFA camp, the chapter the year before had set goals that they wanted to, for their agriculture literacy committee, have an ag education day and have kindergartners and first graders come to the school. And my advisors handed me this packet of stuff they had come up with, stuff they wanted done, and they said, "Have fun. We want this done in April." And they helped me more than that. That was kind of the baseline. And so through that, we kind of developed. We were going to talk about plant science because the greenhouse, we were getting our, at the time, App Harvest hydroponic lettuce container, but it wasn't there yet. So we could talk about that. We could talk about the different products kids got from plants, how to grow plants, and all these different things. And so the first year we started out with plant science, and then sophomore year we moved to plant and animal science. Junior year we moved into adding ag mechanics. We've continued that. We did that my senior year also. So it's been a recurring project. It's been really fun to just see it grow, to see it grow out of a passion for plants into a passion for just teaching those students all about agriculture, but seeing them light up when they get to touch a tractor or when they get to fly a drone, or when they get to learn, say, "Hey, we learned that in class 2 weeks ago." And I think that's really special. I think that's, one of the biggest benefits of FFA in general is with the three circle model. When we have the classroom and then we have FFA and we combine that with SAE, but we're able to combine the learning and the actual activity into the classroom and get students to see that. I think that's just been awesome. But that's really the only thing that my committee did that year, but that's the difference in the agricultural literacy committee versus the three main ones.
I will be stealing the. I think we might be doing something similar with Ag
Yeah.
Education Day. At least
Hmm.
I hope we are because I've never really thought about it until like more
Hmm.
recently. But like there are just some times where you don't understand what ag is, but then when you look back at what you were
Yeah.
doing in elementary school, it's like, oh,
Hmm.
I didn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like for in third grade, we had to do a science fair project. So
Hmm.
I was like, oh, I'll just do plant science because I thought it was easy. And it's like, I did an agri science fair project without really realizing it.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I'll be honest, I kind of stole that, my little third grade idea and did it
Hmm.
better and with like slightly different. But
Yeah.
I just think that's cool that like we can like show
Oh
people
yeah.
show them because they might not know
Hmm.
because they probably don't really
Absolutely.
know to like
Exactly.
show
Yeah.
them that hey,
Hmm.
this is what ag is. It's not just
Hmm.
farming, like especially for plant science because
Yeah.
plant science, I guess, from as long as I can remember, I was being taught that in elementary school very early and showing them like that's agriculture or showing them that
Hmm.
like because kids, especially boys, will always like they're gonna have one of like three things that are gonna be fascinated with like
Yeah.
vehicles, dinosaurs, or like superheroes, and
Hmm.
obviously like the vehicles, ag mechanics. So showing like
Yeah.
young kids who are like interested in like driving like construction vehicles, like that's also a part of ag. I think that's really
Hmm.
cool and important because we
Yeah.
can only like we're only as good as our next generation, right? So we always
Hmm.
need to like find better ways. Crap.
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying. I think you're definitely on the right path, and I think it's especially important for urban ag. For Locust Trace, there's only so much green space that you can have in the middle of Lexington, and that's a tiny city when you think about like Louisville or Boston, Massachusetts.
Or
Like
New
let's say that
York.
for example. Exactly. Like what green spaces there, but showing people, hey, there's still agriculture here. Look at the agriculture mechanics industry. Like, look at, you know, how many people that are building, are creating these skyscrapers in New York City are coming from, like agriculture backgrounds because they're welders.
Yeah.
Um, or agricultural architecture or just coming from ag backgrounds and not even doing that just are in the industry, and I think that's so neat when people realize, hey, everything I do is affected by this industry. How can I play into that? And I think you definitely hit on that very well.
Yeah, and thank you. And something I this is not recent, but something that ever since my family, like extended family cuz they're
Hmm.
all from like northeastern like Canada, New York,
Yeah.
Maine, Boston, from that
Hmm.
area. Apparently in Buffalo where a few of my family members live, there's like there's this ginormous like hydroponics farm and like a
Yeah.
skyscraper, which I
Hmm.
think is really cool because it's starting to implement like farming without the green space, which I think is
Yeah.
really important, especially in large cities where
Hmm.
you need lots of food and not having
Yeah.
to rely on outside farming, although that
Hmm.
is very good and reliable.
Yeah.
If the supply chain breaks down due to natural disasters
Yeah.
or just whatever reason, having that,
Hmm.
like COVID is a great reason of why we should also
Hmm.
like have like farms in cities, if
Yeah.
not just traditional, but through like aeroponics,
Yeah.
hydroponics, and just anything like that. It's just pretty cool,
Hmm.
and it also
Well,
can be used as a
especially
teaching
for
tool.
yeah, especially for like if you consider produce, instead of it having to be sent on a truck from Iowa straight to New York. You can grow it right there, and you can grow the lettuce you need, tomatoes, and you could potentially turn that into a business, but you could also just be self-sufficient with it. And hydroponics are never going to replace
Yeah,
row
traditional.
cropping,
Yeah, traditional.
row cropping or greenhouses. But it's not meant to replace that, because
It's supposed to
all
be
aspects of
supplemental.
agriculture, exactly, it's meant to supply certain things. It's not meant to supply the field corn that goes into creating ethanol that creates gasoline for the taxis in New York. It's not going to do that. It's not going to produce enough because there's just physically not a way.
Yeah.
But how can we produce the little things that will be direct human consumption that allow a cheaper and a better product for us so we can have more space put towards better and efficient production of large row crop products.
Right, and like stuff like basil or like smaller plants or
Yeah.
like
Oh,
cherry,
absolutely.
yeah, cherry tomatoes,
Yeah.
those like little tomatoes.
Yeah.
Like in my room, like right now, off to the side, you can't see it, but
Yeah.
right here in front of my window there is this little, it was a gift from my family uh
Hmm.
for Christmas like 2ish years ago, and it's a little hydroponics. It's this mini little hydroponics kit that has a
Hmm.
little light, and I grow basil out of it, and
Yeah.
I eat the basil, and we also in our backyard have a garden, so that we
Yeah.
can don't have to rely on store bought goods in order to like fuel salads or
Yeah.
just preventing like just in case there is a shortage of tomatoes, which
Hmm. For sure.
my family goes through a lot of.
Yeah.
We are a tomato loving household, and just I guess expanding the horizons of plants, and again back to the whole. This is why we need ag education in elementary schools, because or at least like teach them
Yeah.
what it is so that they
Hmm.
maybe if it's not their thing, maybe because as much as I would love it for it to be everyone's thing, sadly not everyone could be, I
Yeah.
guess, head over heels for ag, but at least them having
Hmm.
like an appreciation or have an understanding of
Yeah. For sure.
where their food comes from is just
Hmm.
it's just good. It's good.
Yeah.
And something that how did it feel to get elected at state convention?
Oh wow. That was a blur. I don't remember a lot of it. I remember that day we worked the final session as we had every session. So I was backstage with all, I don't know how many. There were 400 plus of the state degree recipients. I told all of them, smile, you're going to walk up to the state president, Trenton Page. You're going to shake his hand with your right, hold your certificate in
Maybe
your
your
left.
left. Yep.
Yeah, you'll be directed the rest of the way around the stage. You'll be fine. Have fun. Make sure you smile. And so I had said that 250 times. I'd said it a lot. And at that point, I was so nervous, so sick to my stomach. We all walked out to our seats together, and the music started, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what to think. And then they said, "You're Kentucky River State Vice President," so that was my region. So I knew it was either me or my um, or the other person from my region. And then they said my chapter, and I don't know what told my body to start running because it wasn't my brain, because my brain didn't know what to think. But I just started running, and once I got up to stage, and I almost broke my ankle running, but I didn't. I was lucky enough to have just rolled it a little bit, and I didn't lose a shoe, so I was okay. But as soon as I was the first one on stage, so it was very awkward. I just had to stand there for like 30, 45 seconds until they called Michaela up on stage. So they called her, and then it was just it was bittersweet. It was the end of our time as traditional FFA members. In a sense, realizing we hadn't sat with our FFA chapters the entire convention during sessions or anything, so it was different than normal. It was odd, but it was surreal to realize that everything I'd been working for, all of my dreams had come true, and that this was I was put in the position for a reason that I don't know yet, but I'm here to have an impact on members, whatever that might look like on for me. And then as we went to state FFA officer training, and we realized the roles of each member of the team, it all fell into place of, okay, here's why I'm here, here's my role on the team, here's what I'm supposed to do. And that was truly amazing to just see, to understand that, to just find that out. But then to be able to realize, okay, here's the strengths of the other people around me. Here's how I can use them to, make me a better person to help me. That was awesome. And to see us now, we're going to Summit. We've texted every Sunday that we've had a group coming, like going to FFA camp. Text us when you get there, kind of like a worried mom or
Yeah.
aunt. But we've done that with each other every Sunday. We've talked a lot today, just about funny stuff, about hearing that song that comes on again when we get elected. So it's surreal to know that I'm we're tomorrow is 1 month in completely. So I've almost been in this role for a month, and it feels like it's been about 2 days.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been surreal. There's been a lot that I've forgotten about, but there's been a lot of it that's, you know, just so amazing, and I'm so glad that I've been able to experience.
Yeah, and I guess nothing really can prepare you for it.
No,
You kind of just have
no.
to
Oh yeah.
go in blind and just hope that it works out. And
You prepare for the process, you don't prepare for the nerves and the anxiety.
yeah, and there's a it's always, I guess, I funny, especially when it's like, because I could tell at FFA
Hmm.
camp at first it was you guys didn't really know how to feel,
Yeah.
because this was your, I guess, first time as being seen as a state
Yeah.
officer,
It was, yeah.
because you don't really think about it, and then all these
Hmm.
then you're getting like introduced with all the other state officers, and there's
Yeah.
people like clapping for you,
Hmm.
then the love letters, of course.
No, nothing can prepare you for that either. That was surreal, not in a good way. It
Yeah.
was funny, but it was definitely unique.
Yeah, I don't remember when that tradition started, but it's been forever.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess, uh, how did it feel going to FFA camp, at least? Because nothing really, like you agreed and I said, but
Hmm.
nothing does prepare you for uh, going into it, because there's like being seen as it.
Yeah.
And before you answer, I have just got a notification that
Hmm.
Zoom is running out of time, so
Okay.
we're gonna have to restart the meeting. So I will
Okay.
be right back.
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Okay, so how did it feel, I guess, to be seen as a state officer for the first time and have all these people like looking up to you for the, I guess, first ever time?
Yeah. So that was really weird, because it was my first time at camp. Not really as a member. I had been to camp, a lot when I was little, but I hadn't been. But like I had taken like a 4 or 5 year break from going with my dad, because he had taken a break because we were older. But then I started, going as a member 4 years ago, and then it was surreal to not have my chapter there, to not have my advisors there. That was just really weird, and I didn't know what to do about that. But then to not be in a cabin was also like, oh wow, I don't know what to do with this. And there was a lot of that that was just, awkward because it wasn't something that I had done ever. But then to see members come in and to have to, try to get, people who were half asleep on buses awake and excited for camp, that was really neat. And it was something that, just excited me for the week and really showed me, what, I am a state officer now. It's not just a polo anymore. It's not just a title anymore. I'm actually here. I'm with members. They see me as such. And that was really cool, to get to see, to get to interact with people, and then to just, get one chapter. Their ag teachers actually had me help wheel out the pillows that they had stolen from their members. So,
Oh, I know.
yeah.
I know what.
Yeah. So I was in on that. So I knew who pranked the students. They still don't know who did, but I do. And that was kind of neat to just see, so many ag teachers, prank me, which wasn't always fun, but that was, an experience, because I know that those people will, be some of my closest friends. as ag teachers that if I need anything, I can always go talk to the people who constantly pranked us.
Yeah.
But then one of the biggest parts for me was finally getting to see a workshop in action as a non-member, and then getting to facilitate that and help with that. That just really helped me. It kind of helped me find my style. Because we haven't done workshop writing yet, and we don't do that until August. And so that was something that just getting to see a workshop, what the actual plans look like that, and getting to see that before I go to that training, getting to see that at camp when there's other people there to help facilitate, that I'm not the only person. That was really good for me just to see it happen and then be able to put that into action. And that was one of my favorite parts, really, of the whole thing. Aside from, the whole Camp Pink Lemonade, that was really cool. But just getting to experience, going and talking to different chapters that I hadn't done as a member. I'd always sat with my chapter, getting to, talk to ag teachers, go a little further all out for Olympics than I normally would as a member, and just getting to, have the experience that I would have wanted as a member, but also hopefully have that impact on members. And that was something that, I don't really know how to describe it, but just getting to interact with members, getting to, talk to different people at lunch, to be interviewed by you, just different things like that really showed me, okay, you are a state officer. Here's how to handle this in, just this condensed time, these 5 days, and just kind of to see how that would actually work. In the future. So that was really fun to get to see, because the next thing I do with members isn't until the end of the month.
Yeah.
And so, or well, yeah. So I think I don't do anything until July 23rd with members. So just getting to see that early on and getting to see that beforehand was something really neat for me and something really beneficial. Even if I can't completely describe it, just pink lemonade, awesome members, good sports, and good pranks.
Yeah. Speaking of that advisor that stole their kids' stuff, I knew you were in on it because you were the one that wheeled it
Yeah,
out, and
yeah, I knew.
I knew exactly who did it because
Yeah.
the guys were from that chapter were in my cabin.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in and he was taking all their stuff and he was like,
Yeah.
"Don't tell them,"
Yeah.
which it's always fun, just the I guess
Mm-hmm.
camp spirit to like,
Yeah.
and
For sure.
just the things of like taking your teacher's water bottle and putting it on stage to make her
Yeah.
do the cha-cha slide so you can record it and give it to everyone.
Yeah. It's things like that that make camp what it is, because there's so many other things where there's serious competitions, and we can't always just have fun with the learning that we're doing. But I think that's one of the really special things about camp that I love so much as a member and now as a state officer.
Yeah, and just getting to because it's the main problem. I love the jacket so much, but it's whenever I have it on, I kind of have to like I try my best not to do this and still have
Yeah.
fun, but like when usually I'm wearing official dress, you kind of have to like
Hmm.
be on the best behavior,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
sometimes having lots of fun during that is not always the
Hmm.
easiest. So just
Yeah.
like having something FFA related the
Hmm.
an entire week, just with like
Yeah.
fun and interesting things that you don't have to like, I guess, stand at attention
Hmm.
for 5 minutes, and just
Yeah.
being able to have fun with your like fellow
Hmm.
FFA members and just like
Yeah.
create those friendships, create those bonds, and steal ideas
Yeah. Exactly.
because just there are some ideas that I heard that sound actually very cool. Like Nelson County, apparently they do like this FFA dance for like a
Hmm.
fundraiser, and I kind of want to steal that. And
Yeah.
just getting all those ideas that they
Hmm.
have just from other chapters is just
Yeah.
cool and interesting because you may
Hmm.
not get the chance to hear them again. So just using your time wisely.
Hmm.
And if you, on the topic of workshops, So I assume you're going to start planning workshops in August because that's when you start
Yes.
properly learning. What do you think is the topic that you want to go over if you do get a choice in it?
That's really hard for me to say just because I've been through a lot of workshops, but also, you know, I think not 100% knowing my facilitation style yet kind of plays into not knowing what I want to do, how active I would want to make it, and I think a lot of the activity plays into what the actual topic is. But I think for me, I would definitely want to focus on something that I have personal experience in. So time management, like I worked with DJ at camp on, could definitely be a consideration. Just because that's something that I struggle with, and it would be good for me to say to students or to members, hey, I also struggle with this. Here's kind of what I do to fix this a little bit. Find what works for you. And I think for me, that's very valuable. That's what I wanted and appreciated as a member. And so hopefully what I would want to pass on to members. So maybe something about, finding your leadership, finding your voice, potentially, even if you're not the most like maybe it's finding joy or excitement. Maybe that's, time management or how can we I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like for me, what I would need to hear most, and then what I would want to give on to give to members and what I would want to have that lasting impact on. But I would definitely want it to be something that's, something that they can look at me and say, oh, wow, state officers can struggle with this too. And that doesn't mean you're a bad leader. That doesn't mean you can't do big things. That just means you've got a little bit of work to go and you've got something to work on. And so that's definitely the goal of whatever workshop or workshops I end up doing. But I definitely think that whatever workshops I end up doing, I want them to not only be tailored to, things that I feel that I have struggled with or need to work on, but also what fits what members need in that scenario in that moment. And I think those two things, I think just seeing what ends up working, and after that training, I'll definitely know a better direction for sure on that.
Right, and it's very hard, I guess, to tell in the future what you're gonna do until you do it,
Yeah,
because it
for sure.
and sometimes I guess the cruelty of hindsight is that you can look
Hmm.
back being like, oh, I should have done it,
Yeah.
this or this,
Hmm.
and it's it's not fun to look back and thinking of like how you could have done it better, but it might be helpful for in the future, like looking back, like,
Yeah.
oh, I should have said this, or I should have done it this way, I should have explained it this way. You can always use that, I guess,
Yeah.
to further in the future to make it better. And
Mm.
something you might be able to do that I'm just spitballing, but you can take this or not. Just like having a workshop about like how it's okay not to be the loudest voice in the room, and learning when to like sit back and be a supporting
Yeah.
role is important, and learning how to be a good supporting role, and how just being the loudest
Hmm.
voice is not always the best option.
Yeah, potentially. I think, within that, I think one like that just comes down to, using your voice, and making sure, because the quiet people in the room might have something good to say, but they also, and this is true a lot of times for me, at FFA camp, I never got an outstanding leadership award. I got last year before they did away with it this year, but I got a leadership award for, doing good things in my classes, but I wasn't, one of the loudest people in the room because a lot of times my brain with good ideas, with good lessons, good motivation, I sit down and I just think quietly, and that's how I process. But other people they process better with spitballing ideas, and so I think maybe that's something that would have been beneficial for me to learn earlier. Maybe that's something members need to learn. And again, I'm not completely sure of that. But just learning, why, like why is what you have to say important? How can you use that? And like when to speak, and just understanding that because I think, especially on our state officer team, we started the week out of like our week of training. We started with what we called base camp. So we had a, a facilitator come directly from National FFA, and we started, and he kept saying, I need people to speak who haven't spoken yet, because he wanted to make sure we were comprehending, but also that our voices were heard. And there were sometimes I didn't want to speak up because my brain was processing things that other people had said, and wow, that's good. But for other people, they just needed that push to speak up. And that happens at different times for different people. So that's definitely a potential workshop topic. That's something I need to continue working on, looking at it myself. But that's also something a lot of other people need to work on, and just look at themselves and analyze, what is my style of learning? How does that relate to my introverted or extrovertedness? And how can maybe how can I like change this to better understand how other people process that, or how can I better process this in a way that, allows more voices. So I think that's definitely important, whether or not that becomes a workshop topic for myself or my team this year.
Yeah, and something I will always congratulate you guys on, at least this
Hmm.
officer team, because I think this is the most I've ever released talking to state officers, because it was kind of like I guess it was kind of like a take the shot
Hmm.
to be
Yeah.
like meeting these people, and I'm finally, I guess, old enough to like understand that I might
Hmm.
not get this chance again, and I'm probably gonna
Yeah.
regret it. So, and I will
Hmm.
always congratulate you guys on for being in all officers is when they acknowledge that they're not the most perfect people and how
Yeah.
they still have flaws that they
Hmm.
need to work on, like
Yeah, for sure.
uh, being like probably really anxious when talking to
Yeah.
members because you don't really know what to say, but you
Hmm.
want to say the right thing, but you don't know what that is, and
Yeah.
it will just come to you naturally at eventually because you have almost an entire year to figure
Oh,
it
for
out,
sure. Yeah.
and by the time I'm sure like maybe even a quarter of the way in, you're probably gonna find your voice in like how to
Yeah.
best explain to members how to do something, and I think that's really cool that like not everyone starts out as a like uh the
Yeah.
best at leading,
Yeah.
and the whole phrase "leaders aren't born,
Hmm.
leaders are made" is like, yeah, you're only as good as
Hmm.
people who built you up. So being able to like
Yeah.
further the leadership
Hmm.
training is really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's kind of neat. So whenever we first get elected, one of the things we're told and that our families are told is, we're taking, your kids are going to be very busy for a year. They're now state officers. They've got a lot of obligations. They're covering 24,000 Kentucky FFA members. When they get done with that, we're gonna bring your kids back to you, and they're not gonna have that obligation anymore. But we hope they're different. And I'm already seeing differences in myself after our base camp training, learning about each other, getting closer with the team, and realizing, I do belong on this team and why I belong on that team. But then, having a week to process all of that at home and then going straight to FFA camp and just seeing all of those things, happen. And I'm going to see growth next week at State FFA at Officer Summit, and then growth at our next training, and then growth as the school year starts, and all of these things that are just, personal growth, but team growth, but FFA growth, and all these things that it's so cool to see it in ourselves, to see it in fellow members of the state officer team, and then to get to see that in members, to see how, especially how this started for you, at camp, and how it grew to the end of camp being like, okay, maybe I can actually make this a reality and make this a little bit more than just a couple interviews. And just getting to see that as we grow, we're able to be vulnerable. We're able to show that to people, and through that, be genuine, create relationships, and then just get to see you all do the same things.
Yeah, and I will forever thank you guys for, I guess, like,
Yeah,
being, I guess, like, supportive of this, not
yeah,
crazy, but, like, at least absurd in my head kind of an idea to, like, go for it. And thank you specifically for, like,
yeah,
being like, you should make this an SAE, and I'm now,
yeah,
like, probably going to make it an SAE when I get the time and put in all the
yeah,
stuff into
yeah.
AET.
Just make this, and make everything you do with an FFA. Make it the experience you want out of it. Push yourself out of what's comfortable. Push yourself out of the comfort zones that you've set for yourself. Because they're breakable, and if you can break them in anything, you're going to break them in your blue jacket. And that's been so true for me. Some people, they have their regular voice and then they have their FFA voice. Mine have never really changed, but you're going to hear me say a lot more when I'm in that blue jacket. You're going to hear my voice a lot more. You're going to see a much more confident version of me when I have that blue jacket on, when I can hear, like when I can feel my state degree chain, and when I can, just zip that up. I'm like, wow, like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm here for members. I'm here for myself. I have a job to do. Let's go do this. And confidence is shown through that. But, being able to break down what you see as comfortable, what you see as normal, starting this. I'm sure that's not comfortable. I'm sure this is like it's brand new. I'm sure it's kind of crazy in your head still, but it's not crazy on paper to say, wow, I can start something new. I can start this. What was crazy for me was starting my own business in Christmas, like right around finals time. It's like, was that smart? No. But has it paid off now? Yes. Because it's put me on the stage at national convention, which if that had never happened, I would have still been successful. But just seeing all these things that have come from my FFA experience, seeing my business, my growth in my SAEs, and just seeing how every little step has taken me so much further and put me in this position today. And put me into understanding what I want my future careers to be. So don't say anything's too crazy to do, especially if you've got your blue jacket on, because nothing's too crazy to do in this organization as long as you've got the dream and you've got the drive to do it. Make it happen. Um, especially at with Locust Trace, where it's such a unique version of an FFA chapter solely because you all don't go to school all day at Locust Trace because you're from so many different schools. And that's so special because it's so different, and you can use that platform to completely change whatever you do and to completely, transform that because somebody from Rockcastle County, we go to school in the same building that we have ag class in, and
Yeah.
that's we don't have a farm in our ag department. We have a greenhouse, yeah, and we have like a small mechanic shop connected to the school, but we don't have a farm. We don't have any livestock. So you all have a completely different platform than we would have to have an impact on ourselves, on members, and just on the industry of agriculture. So take that and make it what's good for you, make it what would change you, and make it what you feel needs to happen, and with whatever that looks like, and you and whoever whoever listens to that and really realizes that whatever they do, however far they take it, it will make an impact on definitely them and hopefully other people. I think that's just so important. It's completely changed me and just given me so many opportunities inside and outside of FFA. And when I'm done with this year of service, when I retire in 11 months, um, almost, I think it is to the day 11 months. So when I retire my jacket in 11 months, um, you know, I'm still have a home. I still have ways that I can change myself, even if it's not outside of FFA, because FFA has allowed me that realization.
Yeah. And this doesn't. So, what do you think? Is it like a time or a memory? At least doesn't have to be an FFA. Can just be anything really. Do you
Mhm.
think has made like the most impact on you and your ability to, and just the way you see the world and the way you can see yourself making a difference?
So, I mean, and I kind of touched on this just a second ago, but FFA has been a major part of that. But if I was going to say something non-FFA, it's still ag related, of course.
Yeah.
But it's working in my papa's greenhouse. So I started when I was in fourth grade in 2016. So I was so shy. I stayed in the back in the hot greenhouse, and I would do anything to not be in the front greenhouse if customers would be there. When I was in fifth and sixth grade, I would come to the front greenhouse because it got too hot in the back ones. And I would come to the front and I would put like noise canceling earbuds in, and I would be like, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not answering questions. I'm not doing anything. I'm too scared to talk to people. And all I did was my jobs, but with people around me. And I've continued growing and growing until I could answer questions for people, but I couldn't carry a conversation. And finally, like eighth grade, finally getting into FFA, ninth grade, I started being able to like start to finish talk to people, run the cash register, and I really just hit this period of growth. And I was like, wow, I can do this. I can talk to people, I can carry a conversation, and that's not only knowledge based in the greenhouse, but that's also being able to do that on a personal base and be able to say, hey, how are you, to remember names or remember faces. Hey, how did such and such plant do for you last year? How's this family member? How's your neighbor? And being able to do things like that has just, I have so many relationships because of that. I learned so much about my style of relationship building, what I value in a relationship with a friend or a family member, and just just how to treat people in the professional world and personal, and how to bridge that, and just build relationships, which has carried over to my FFA experience so well. And just being able to sit down with somebody and just say, hey, how are you? And just be personable and not be scared to talk to people I don't know. If I was still scared, I still am a little nervous to talk to people I don't know. I don't always go up and initiate a conversation, especially not as a member. Like my first day at camp, I was like, oh, wow. I just realized I have to talk to people at lunch, like, and just go up to them and say, hi, I don't know you. I'm sitting here. And that was crazy. That was not something I would have done normally. But being able to do that, I credit a lot of that to FFA, but that work in the greenhouse and just getting to see myself grow through that and just understand, hey, like this is something that this is a place you've been put in. How can you have an impact? How can you grow yourself? How can you grow other people? And the greenhouse has been a ton of that because it's just showed me how to talk to people and how to be that person that people, maybe they don't want to talk to me, but how to be that person that can be talked to.
Yeah, and just showing them that even if you like being the person that you can always
Yeah,
have a conversation with, and
for
they'll
sure.
listen, because that's just
Exactly.
and my advisor, Mr. Bustle, always said, at least to us, and even in because he taught one of the officer classes at camp, he
Yeah.
taught the president's class. He was like,
Yeah.
listen 4 times as much as you speak.
Oh, always. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's so easy to just wow 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 wow, wow, but never really take in what other people say. But
Hmm.
you should always be
Yeah.
taking in what others say,
Hmm.
because that's important.
Yeah.
And
Well,
just
what others say and what others do, and just looking at people and saying, how can I be more like them in this way? For me, FFA has been, I've always had, like state officers to look up to. How can I be more like so and so and be comfortable even though I'm quiet? How can I be more like, um, you know, my dad and have a crazy amount of stuff going and not get overwhelmed? How can I be more like my advisors and be super close friends with people? Like Mr. Bustle, like they're best friends with Mr. Bustle because he's from Rockcastle County.
yeah,
So how can I be close to people like they're close to people? How can I build relationships like other people build relationships with me and with other people?
yeah, and I think it's always good to have a role model,
Yeah.
um, and something. So I hope to interview more and more officers, and I was actually looking at Aiden because he did I forgot what it's called, but it's for the Kentucky Farm Bureau. That
Yes.
did like
Outstanding youth.
outstanding youth, yes. And I
Yes.
remember one of the things that he gave. I think it was the most recent one. He was talking about how important it is to have a role model, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, it is really important
Hmm.
because
Oh yeah, for sure.
role models shape how you are as a person. Like if I,
Exactly.
you are a role model to me,
Oh,
even though
thank
you
you. Yeah, I
you're welcome.
appreciate it.
Even it's kind of it's always weird to say that someone's a role model to you,
Yeah.
but because you convinced me to make an SAE, which I probably wouldn't have done. You made you and all the other state officers like I guess unwittingly nurtured this like love for interviewing, and Thad did as well, and just so did Mr. Mitchum, Commissioner Shell, just like nurturing this
Yeah.
little passion project, which I hope does go somewhere, and I'm going to make it go somewhere, even if it's not like
Yeah.
to be. Obviously, it's not going to be the number one educational podcast in the world because
Hmm.
if this is just some random thing, but just like at least getting out to the people who would value
Yeah.
what's in it and hearing from
Hmm.
people like you and getting to know what exactly you do because
Hmm.
I don't know what state officers really do. I know that they
Yeah.
have a job. What that is, I
Yeah.
don't really know. And I guess that is a question. What is it exactly that you what is your technical role?
So, as Kentucky River State Vice President, and as any other state officer, our role is to interact with members to, well, technically to promote the mission of FFA, to, to build like grow leaders, build communities, and strengthen agriculture through agricultural education. But to be advocates. A lot of our role is advocacy, advocating for FFA, advocating for agriculture, and then just just showing students what it is to be leaders, how it is to be in a role of leadership, especially as students, as teenagers. When a lot of the world is like, well, you need to be an adult to do something big. And I think, we're seeing a shift a little bit, because of FFA and all these other wonderful youth organizations
Like
into,
Beta?
oh yeah, for sure. Beta, FCCLA, FBLA, honors clubs. How can we take the talents of so many really talented, really amazing like youth and use them for whatever, like fill in the blank. And I think, just promoting students who, are really quiet or don't know where they fit in, showing they do have a place, especially in agriculture, but also showing them they are leaders. They just might not have found it yet. It's like when people talk about books. You know how people say if you don't like reading, you just haven't found the right book yet.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. If you say you're not a leader, you either haven't had the right experiences yet, or you just haven't seen yourself as a leader yet. You haven't taken experiences to become a leader. And just, and try to push yourself out of that. And I think a lot of our role is just advocacy and just encouraging members, being a person that people would want to talk to. But aside from that, we facilitate workshops. We go on industry tours for foundation sponsors. We do several trainings. We serve as delegates at National FFA Convention. We serve as interns at the state fair. But really just to advocate for agriculture, for FFA, and to just be a voice for the industry and the organization that have poured so much into us.
Yeah. And the final question before this is over.
Hmm.
Um what do you think is, I guess it's a very cliche question, but what is the best piece of advice you can
Hmm.
give a young and starting officer or member or just whoever in general,
Yeah.
and one person that has made the most impact on your FA career out of all the people that you've met?
Oh, wow. So, one piece of advice I would give any member, but specifically, somebody newer starting on like in a role of leadership in the chapter. So, they're involved, they want to, or they are serving on the executive team as a committee chair, assistant, or assistant officer, or an officer. I would say, you know, just do things that are uncomfortable. Um, and there's something that I try to make myself realize that leadership doesn't grow in comfort. Leadership grows in discomfort. People grow in discomfort. Um, so if you're willing to get out of your comfort zone and just be vulnerable with people to show what you've gone through, to show what you value. Um, for me, I value, I value plants, I value horticulture. That's one of my values. But also, one of my other values is learning. Um, I value learning. I value um, you know, my beliefs in certain things in faith. So realizing what you value and how that can play into agriculture, how that can play into FFA. So how can my love for horticulture play into my leadership style in FFA? How can that help me grow? How can my love for horticulture help me grow? And when you think about that, you're able to say, well, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. Maybe I need to ask somebody for help and they'll tell me what might be better for me. And you're just able, I think that would be the biggest piece of advice is get out of your comfort zone. And by that, you might be talking to somebody new. You might be starting a podcast, like you are, it might, I don't know what that looks like for members. And because that looks a lot different for me, my comfort zone was talking to people I didn't know. And so being able to break that was, sometimes it was as simple as zipping up my FFA jacket, being like, okay, like it's go time. You've got to be excited. You've got to be an extrovert. You got to be the loudest person in that room. And then other times that was, okay, like you're okay. Go get some encouragement from somebody else. So finding what that looks like, finding what your comfort zone is and how you can start to chip away at that and break that. Excuse me. But I think one of my mentors, and my biggest supporters of how can I grow, how can I get out of that comfort zone? Um, if I like I have a lot of mentors, and one of my biggest mentors would be my dad. But I think for this specific scenario of getting out of your comfort zone, I would say my three best friends. So they're some of my biggest supporters. I was in freshman ag class with all three of them. And two of them stuck around as FFA officers. One went to be an honors club officer. Go her, but she didn't join FFA. So um, that was, we wish she had. But
Her loss.
exactly, yeah. I'm kidding on that, but she came back as a
Yeah.
senior. She just didn't come back as an officer. But they've been able to get me to do crazy things I would have like never done. So for like going to Dollywood to ride roller coasters, going with them to Kings Island for the senior trip last year for my school. Um, let's see. Doing an escape room while wearing a fake mustache for Gracie's birthday. And just doing these things that I would have never done, that I was not comfortable with, that are very uncomfortable. And I'm like, are you sure we should do this? I don't like that. But then we get done with that, especially on the roller coasters. I'm like, wow, I wish I could do that again. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Why was I so scared of that in the first place? And just having them to say, you can do this, you're okay. We're here to hype you up. You're not going to fall. You're fine. And just having people there to realize, even if I do fall, even if I do fail, if we consider the FFA realm of things, I have people behind me to hype me up, to help get me out of that comfort zone. And that will push me to do things that I don't want to do, but will be good for me and will show me their value in my life, and how much I value them versus how much I need to value them. But also just how important it is to have good people in your life that are like that, that will show you, how to get out of your comfort zone, how to do all these different things that are just your biggest cheerleaders. For me, that's been a lot of their role is just big cheerleaders for everything I've ever done with FFA. They tried to bring, like, one of the giant fat heads, tried to bring one of those of me to state FFA convention for the final session. So just things like that that I'm like mortified by, but they like it's their way of getting me out of my comfort zone and encouraging me. So just I would tell people the second biggest piece of advice is just find people in your life that are like that. Find your cheerleaders, like find your cheer squad, and they'll push you out of your comfort zone. They'll get you where you want to be and where you need to be.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Thank you.
have a good day.